He's sitting back there in that seat behind you. And I said, where are your parents? He looks right back at me and he says, I killed them both.
On June 10, 2006, 24-year-old Lori Slesinski vanished without a trace from Auburn, Alabama. Earlier that day, she confirmed she'd be attending a planned girls' night out at her best friend and co-worker's trailer home. When investigators arrived at her place, they found her dog left alone, the air conditioner still running, and the phone cord missing. What could explain her sudden disappearance? Did Lori leave town in a rush, or was something far more sinister at play? Welcome back to Dark Case Files, where we explore solved, unsolved, and twisted cases from around the world. Today, we're uncovering the truth behind a mysterious disappearance that took 16 years to solve. Auburn, located in Lee County, is the largest city in eastern Alabama. It's also the state's fastest-growing metro area and ranks 19th among the fastest-growing metropolitan areas in the U.S. since 1990. Known as the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn is a unique blend of Southern hospitality and cultural diversity. It's also home to Auburn University, one of the most well-known public universities in the country. Today's story centers around a former student of Auburn University, Lori Slesinski. Born on September 21, 1981, to Casey and Arlene Slesinski, Lori was blessed with blue eyes and blonde hair. She was cherished by her parents and her older brother, Paul. The family originally lived in New York State before relocating to rural Alabama, near Auburn, when Lori was just 13 years old. Growing up surrounded by animals on a farm, Lori became a passionate animal lover. Friends described Lori as beautiful, fun-loving, and full of life. She enjoyed hanging out with friends, watching movies, riding her bike, and playing video games. Alongside her hobbies, she was dedicated to her studies, and her family supported her every step of the way. After high school, she enrolled at Auburn University, majoring in psychology and minoring in criminology. To help her live comfortably, her parents purchased a mobile home in a well-kept trailer park popular with students. She lived there alone with her beloved Yorkshire Terrier, Peanut. Despite living away from home, Lori stayed close to her family. Her mom called her every day to check in. In 2005, Lori graduated with honors from Auburn University. Shortly after, she started working at the East Alabama Mental Health Center while still living in her trailer park home. She also planned to pursue a master's degree in psychology in the near future. Lori's family was incredibly proud of her accomplishments, unaware that something dark was lurking just around the corner. On June 10, 2006, 24-year-old Lori made plans for a girls' night at her best friend Lindsay Braun's house. They were looking forward to a relaxed evening with drinks and a movie. Lori and Lindsay first met in their junior year at Auburn University, where Lindsay quickly became fond of Lori's sweet, outgoing, and charming personality. Their friendship grew even closer when they both started working at the same mental health facility after graduation. At around 6:30 p.m. on June 10th, Lori called Lindsay to say she needed to stop by the store before heading over for their movie night. Unfortunately, Lori never made it to Lindsay's house. When she didn't hear from Lori that night or the next day, Lindsay became increasingly worried. She called Lori multiple times and left messages on her home answering machine, but Lori never called back. When Lori didn't show up for work on Monday, June 12th, Lindsay's worries intensified. It was completely out of character for Lori to miss work without notifying anyone. After Lori missed work again on Tuesday, June 13th, Lindsay and another coworker decided to check on her at her trailer home. When they arrived, Lindsay couldn't find Lori anywhere. The door was unlocked, and the air conditioner was running, which seemed odd. Inside, Lori's dog Peanut was in his crate, looking well-fed and happy, as if someone had been caring for him. Surprisingly, the crate was clean, even though Lori had already been missing for several days. Lindsay felt something was wrong. Lori would never leave her beloved pet unattended. Lindsay noticed another strange detail. Lori always kept 3 rugs on her kitchen floor because Peanut didn't like walking on the tile, but those rugs were gone. The outdoor trash can was missing too. Later that same day, June 13th, Lori's mother, Arlene, received a call from Lori's workplace, informing her that Lori hadn't shown up for 2 days. Arlene immediately tried to reach her daughter, but the calls went unanswered. Fearing for Lori's safety, Arlene quickly alerted her husband, Casey, and rushed to Auburn. When Arlene arrived at Lori's trailer, she was met with a chilling scene. The door was slightly ajar, Lori's bed was neatly made, but Lori was nowhere to be found, and her car was missing. Upon closer inspection, Arlene noticed that several items were gone, including Lori's kitchen rugs, a pillow from the couch, a Galileo thermometer, a green trash can that Lori used to store a rake and shovel, and the phone cord from her landline. Alarmed, Arlene felt deep in her gut that something was terribly wrong and immediately reported Lori as a missing person, though she still held on to hope that her daughter would come home. As the investigation began, police searched Lori's trailer but struggled to find any clear evidence pointing to a suspect. However, they did find troubling signs, scuff marks on the wall, suggesting a struggle. On Lori's bedsheet, they discovered semen, and traces of blood were found on the doorknob, a coat hanger, and a single gold hoop earring left behind. Investigators soon uncovered surveillance footage from June 10, 2006, showing Lori stopping at a Walmart in Alabama. It was the last confirmed sighting of her, and beyond that, no one knew what had happened. Later that same day, Arlene received a phone call from one of Lori's friends, 25-year-old Daryl Richard Ennis, known as Rick. Rick told Arlene he had seen Lori the day she disappeared and suggested she might have gone off to make a drug deal. This unexpected claim added more questions than answers, leaving Arlene even more anxious about Lori's fate. Lori first met Rick Ennis at a bowling alley where he worked, a place she often visited when she was still a student. Arlene knew who Rick was, as Lori had once invited him to spend Christmas with the family in 2005. Lori felt sorry for Rick because he didn't have a family of his own. However, despite Lori's close friendship with him, Arlene couldn't believe Rick's claim that Lori was involved in drug dealing. She felt he was blatantly lying but couldn't figure out his motive. Rick shared the same information with the police, but before they could follow up, a chilling discovery was made. On June 14, 2006, 4 days after Lori's disappearance, at around 4:40 a.m., Lori's car was found engulfed in flames on a dead-end road near the very same bowling alley where Rick had previously worked. This shocking development shifted the investigation from a missing persons case to a potential homicide. According to investigators, the fire had completely destroyed any potential evidence inside Lori's car. Fortunately, Lori's body was not found in the vehicle. Nearby, a hand-rolled cigarette lay on the ground, and a gas can was discovered hidden in the woods close by. The incident deeply unsettled Lori's family, who were now convinced that something terrible had happened to her. The only lead they had was the information Rick Ennis had shared with Arlene. When investigators brought Ennis in for questioning, he stuck to the same story he had told Arlene but provided additional details. Ennis claimed that he and Lori had been growing marijuana together and suggested that Lori may have gone off to sell her share of the crop. He even speculated that Lori might have been dealing with dangerous people. The police searched Lori's trailer thoroughly but found no evidence linking her to drug dealing. During the interview, investigators noticed multiple scratches on Rick's hands and arms. When questioned, he claimed his dog had scratched him. However, even more unsettling information emerged when detectives spoke to Lindsay. She revealed that during her last phone conversation with Lori on the day she vanished, she had heard Rick Ennis speaking in the background. Since Rick was known to be a close friend of Lori's, Lindsay didn't think much of it at the time. Lindsay told investigators that when she texted Rick asking about Lori's whereabouts, he assured her that Lori was fine when he left her. Lindsay also shared that, before Lori's disappearance, she had confided in her about a love letter Rick had written to her, which Lori had no interest in. Lori had told Lindsay that she didn't feel the same way about Rick and planned to talk to him about it. Investigators later learned that Rick had mentioned the letter and Lori's rejection to some of her friends. When police re-interviewed him, they confronted Rick with the new information from Lindsay. He admitted to meeting with Lori hours before she vanished but insisted that she was doing well and was getting ready to go to the store when he left. However, investigators found several inconsistencies in his account. As their suspicion of Rick grew, they began to focus on him as their prime suspect. The investigation took a darker turn when police searched his car and found several troubling items, including a knife, cleaning supplies, and handcuffs. To gather more evidence, investigators dug into Rick's past, but what they uncovered was far more chilling than they anticipated. Investigators soon uncovered a shocking revelation from Rick Ennis's past. At the age of just 12, Rick had murdered both his mother and stepfather on March 3, 1993. Just 10 months after their marriage, Rick killed his mother, who was known for her sweet, church-going nature, by beating her to death with a baseball bat after shooting her in the face. The murder took place in their trailer in North Montgomery, Alabama. His stepfather, Eddie Joe Flowers, nicknamed Elvis for his sideburns and lively personality, suffered the same tragic fate. After killing his mother, Rick shot Eddie in the face with a shotgun when he returned home from work. Following the murders, Rick drove the family car but crashed it into a fence along the highway. When Alabama State Trooper John Clark stopped him walking along the road, he asked Rick where his parents were. The young boy coldly responded that he had killed them. Upon searching Rick's backpack, Detective Clark found a kitchen knife and ammunition for both a 12-gauge shotgun and a .22 caliber weapon. When asked why he had killed his parents, Rick, without emotion, explained that he was angry because they planned to move, saying he didn't want to leave his school. Investigators believed that Rick had lived with the bodies for days while still attending school. He also confessed to plans to kill his 3 stepsisters, which shocked the investigators even more. At the time of his murders, although Rick Ennis's actions were horrific, his age prevented him from being tried as an adult. As a minor, he was sentenced to 9 years in prison for the double murder. After his release, he moved to Auburn, where he met Lori Slesinski. Following Lori's disappearance, Ennis became the prime suspect in the case. Despite his disturbing past and the overwhelming circumstantial evidence, police couldn't charge him with Lori's murder due to the lack of her body or direct evidence linking him to the crime. Shortly after his interview with detectives, Ennis left Auburn and relocated, eventually settling in Huntsville, Alabama, in 2007. By this time, Lori's case had gone cold. In Huntsville, Ennis moved in with a roommate named Abram Sissons. Abram noticed that Ennis had brought kitchen rugs with him, claiming they were a gift from Lori. He also mentioned being in love with a woman from Auburn who had vanished without a trace, though he didn't reveal her name. Abram thought nothing of it until he learned about Ennis's past. Shortly after, he asked Ennis to leave, and when he returned to his apartment, he found it completely trashed. The police later recovered the rugs, and one of them tested positive for Ennis's blood. Abram also recalled seeing a Galileo thermometer in Ennis's room, the same type that had gone missing from Lori's trailer. Sadly, even with these clues, police were still unable to definitively link Ennis to Lori's murder, and the case remained unsolved. The case remained unsolved for years, leaving Lori's grieving family waiting for answers. There were no updates for a long time. However, in 2016, after a decade of silence, Mark Whitaker, a special agent with the Alabama State Bureau of Investigation, reopened Lori's case. He established a cold case unit, with his longtime partner, Agent J.W. Barnes, joining him in the investigation. Lori's case became their first major project. They revisited all the evidence, sending several items for retesting at forensic labs, and conducted a series of interviews and re-interviews. After reviewing all the evidence, Ennis emerged as their primary suspect. Agent Whitaker, who knew of Ennis's violent past, had a strong intuition that Ennis had been involved in Lori's case, but there was no solid proof. Then, a breakthrough occurred when Agent Barnes found an unopened envelope in the files, which had been overlooked for 10 years. Inside was a report showing that the semen on Lori's bedsheet and the blood on the door of her trailer contained Ennis's DNA. With this crucial evidence, investigators built a strong case against Ennis. They managed to get an indictment in 2018. By then, Ennis had moved to Pilot, Virginia, where he was living with his fiancée, school librarian Elena Atkinson. He was employed by a company that designed and built portable living structures called yurts. On August 6, 2018, on his 38th birthday, Rick Ennis was arrested by a task force of U.S. Marshals, marking a significant moment for Lori Slesinski's family, who had been waiting for answers for over a decade. However, the arrest shocked Ennis's fiancée and co-workers, who had no idea about his dark past. He was charged with 2 counts of capital murder. His trial was delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but it finally began on April 1, 2022. During the trial, the prosecution presented compelling evidence, including a cigarette butt and a bedsheet with Ennis's DNA, suggesting his involvement in the crime. The defense, however, argued that the police could have planted the cigarette at the crime scene, even attempting to discredit Lori's character by suggesting she was a drug dealer to explain the presence of his DNA. Ennis claimed that he had consensual sex with Lori before she went missing, but his explanation seemed unconvincing, especially when 2 new witnesses came forward with shocking information. One of Ennis's former co-workers, Jeremy Brooks, testified that on June 9, 2006, just 1 day before Lori disappeared, Ennis called him, asking if he could bring him gas. Ennis explained he had run out of fuel and needed assistance, but Brooks declined. This phone call became a critical piece of evidence when police found Lori's burnt car and a gas can, which matched the description of one that had been missing from the bowling alley where Ennis worked. Another former co-worker of Rick Ennis, Terry Booth, testified about a chilling conversation she had with him years earlier. Booth recalled asking Ennis why he had moved from Auburn, to which he responded, "I had to get rid of a body." Although Booth initially thought he was joking, Ennis's arrest for Lori's murder later made it clear that he wasn't. Despite Ennis continuing to deny all accusations and claiming his innocence, the jury found him guilty after just 2 days of deliberation. He was initially facing the death penalty, but after discussions with Arlene, the district attorney agreed to remove it from the table. Arlene, later reflecting on the decision, said that agreeing to a life sentence without parole allowed her to avoid years of appeals, while ensuring Ennis would never be free again. On April 14, 2022, Ennis was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He is currently serving his sentence at the William E. Donaldson Correctional Facility in Bessemer, Alabama. For Arlene Slesinski, the outcome was bittersweet. With tears in her eyes, she shared that it meant she had to finally accept that Lori was never coming home, an incredible hope that a portion of her heart always clung to. As Lori Slesinski's case comes to a tragic but conclusive end, the truth behind her disappearance has finally been uncovered after 16 long years. While the pain of losing a daughter never truly fades, Arlene and the rest of Lori's family can take comfort in knowing that Rick Ennis will never again walk free. Though the location of Lori's remains may never be revealed, her memory and the fight for justice will live on. This case serves as a reminder of the importance of perseverance in the search for truth, no matter how long it takes. Thank you for joining us on this journey through a story that is as heart-wrenching as it is profound. If you found this case as impactful as we have, please leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories from Dark Case Files. Until next time, stay safe and keep seeking justice.